Yes.
I'm super happy that the day has come. I've been really curious about how the conversation, where it'll take us, everything that we're going to cover. I think that in 1 hour, hi Amina, 1 hour is going to be woo, to fill it all in. So everyone, bear with us, but let's dig in because it is 7:01 and there's
Good.
lots
Let's be
ground
on
to cover.
time. You got it.
So today's topic is when ignorance isn't bliss. And most, to be honest, we all have this. I started this way when we see dancers, they're so excited and so enthused, and the passion is there, and the excitement, and you're just learning. But you're not really ready for maybe the world to see you yet. Let's be honest, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about that. And prior to hopping on, I was telling everyone, please have an open mind and an open heart. A lot of this comes from love, a place of love, okay? And it's just going to be it's going to be a little real. So I'm going to give for our viewers that might be listening later, for those of us here, hi, Yasmin,
Hi,
a little
Amina.
a
I see
bio.
Amina put a comment. Yeah, we can see the comments for sure.
Hello. A little bit about Phaedra Darwish. For those of you that may have heard of her, or maybe you've never heard of her, good to get to know who is she. So I'm going to give you a little spin. So Phaedra comes to us with a music and like vocal and instrumental background and musical theater. She was mesmerized by Arabic dance and music after studying a lot of different types of dances from all around the world. She feels that these art forms are beautiful ways to share the culture that is actually part of her heritage. And we'll be talking about a little bit about that. She's been performing and teaching workshops and classes in Chicago. So she's based in Chicago, y'all, throughout the US for over 14 years. And she produces and takes part in a bunch of culture events, community fundraisers, dance festivals, anything with music and dance theater, basically. And she's really actively engaged in maintaining like a really high standard of execution. And this will come, I'm sure, into play here soon. And participation in quality programming. Phaedra hopes to spread enthusiasm and respect for Middle Eastern dance as many more people get acquainted with all the benefits that it offers us and the beauty of the dance. Her mission as an artist, which I think is really cool, is to increase cultural awareness, appreciation, understanding by sharing the dances of our heritage with as large a population as possible. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jennifer. It's been an awesome process to get to know you a little bit. I know in our last conversation, I turned into the interviewer and I was kind of grilling you about your past, because I think if I know you a little bit better, then we can see, what we mutually have to converse on. And thank you to some of my students I see out there. It's my students and fellow dancers joining in, Becca Rose and Athena and Judy. I love you all. And I'm glad to be here. I am, like you said, based in Chicago, and thank you for doing your homework there. That's straight out of my bio. But I do think cultural programming is something that I do all the time, whether it's my own or in the many groups that I play in here in Chicago. I play in a group called Taif Ensemble, which is a queer-led, female-based Arabic music ensemble. I play with University of Chicago Middle East Music Ensemble. I play with Sarabi Ensemble, where we mix flamenco, Indian traditions, Mexican traditions, and Arabic traditions in our original and not original, both music and dance. So it's a music and dance group. Am I forgetting anyone? I play sometimes with the Chicago Arabic Music Ensemble, and I play also, and I play and dance with those groups, and then I also play in Jazz Rakambu, or Rakambu Jazz. That's a group also out of Chicago, and we mix, it's a lot of different jazz from certain eras, and then also within that is some North African influence and Arabic influence as well. So I do have still a big life within my musical life, which started at an early age. I am Lebanese American, as you had mentioned about the heritage, on my father's side. So that last name, Darwish, that is pretty common and well-known sort of Arabic last name, and that is on my dad's side. His family came from Roshaya al-Wadi in Lebanon. So, but I cannot lie. I did not grow up speaking Arabic. I learned to read it way later. I can barely speak it. I work on it all the time. I sing in it all the time, but working all the time on comprehension, because language, as you know, really plays a huge part in this dance, right? It's a comprehensive cultural dance. So it has to do with context and language and music and being a vessel of the music and all these sort of things, which that's a lot to prepare. Coming to today's, today's subject is the preparation that it takes when you feel something is ready. And that is a very subjective thing.
Sure is in this industry.
Yes.
Which we're hoping today's conversation might make us in various communities think a little more differently, maybe as a whole.
Absolutely. I think when I'm looking, I've been teaching now for quite a bit of time, as you mentioned before, and when I'm working one-on-one with students or preparing student groups, there are certain parameters now that I hold where I can give them an actual number. Because when I was starting music, as you know, as a musician yourself, we have almost like a codified rehearsal process, right? Or a practice process. So for instrumental music, if I'm tackling a piece or if I'm practicing, how to practice. How to practice is something we don't talk about as dancers all the time. I can say I have a student and they are in love with the piece, a certain song. And that's one of the first steps in selecting a song is, can you listen to it a million times and not get sick of it, right? And then I think in music, what would we do? We practice, we do our scales, we do etudes or like small studies, you could say small compositions, and then we get to our repertoire. But dancers don't necessarily practice like that. I was in a workshop one time with Rhonda Kama, and I don't know if I asked her this or someone asked her, how do you practice? And her answer was, I just put on music and I dance. So people have their different ways in this industry of preparing. But when we start to prepare, when I start to prepare a student, I think about the hows. How are we going to get them to this level or this, the end of the piece in a certain time frame that they need? I think of the when is it due? Why are they doing it? How professional do they want to do? How professional do they want to go? Or what is the end game? What environment are they hoping to do this solo or whatever the piece in? I think about the how, the why, the when, also the where, right? And that is what I kind of just alluded to is what are we preparing for and the where. And that comes in today's topic as well. Sometimes I've had incidents with students where maybe they are preparing for an event that maybe is a little bit above their pay grade at this point, that sort of thing, right? And I know you also have been a teacher yourself.
Oh yeah, you see it all, and it's not even just students because there's no regulation, right? It's so we just have people that come out the cabinet and say professional to get payment right away. They're doing it literally in the beginning just for money, and it looks fun. And so you'll see this with professional performers. It's not just students, in the industry, and it's a wild ride. There's always a reason and a cause. It's never like out of malice that I've come through, like I'm gonna do it to, ruin the dance. It's never that. It's always from like a joyful, sweet place. It's just not having the full picture of what that kind of leads to. That could be detrimental. Just it's a whole other game.
Absolutely, and I think on your kind of what you were saying, what it leads to, the older I get and the more experienced I get within this dance form, the more picky, the pickier I am about how we're representing this dance to the public. Now, you read my mission statement, which I think it is important as an artist to have a mission statement, the umbrella under which you're working, right? Because it gives you more focus on what programming to do, what to participate in, what your belief system is, and it can focus your life a little bit more. And so mine is to get this dance out to the members of the public who may never have seen it before. And also in the back of my mind is always to make the Arab community proud of the culture from which this dance comes. And so that has to do a lot with representing this dance in, I don't, how do you, if I said the right way, that's
the best one.
That's it. Represent this dance in a respectable way, in an authentic way as possible, as we can do. And so I get a little more picky as the years go by on what is acceptable. And so, unfortunately for my students, that transfers to them too, because I think perhaps 10 years ago when I was teaching this dance and what I think now are obviously very different things, right? So there's things now that I won't let people get away with, per se, even in my own dancing, right? And so sometimes I found in the beginning, before going back to the topic of how to prepare, that we don't have a codified system of how to prepare that's maybe as time-worn tradition as other forms of art, right? So I think back to my mom, my mother, who was my first music teacher. And when I was young, I was 6 years old, and I was starting to play, and I had to practice the lessons that she gave me. She was my first music teacher. So when someone goes into their preparation or daily practice of any certain piece, I now find it is helpful to give numeric parameters, especially when they're beginners. As we get older, we know what our cycle is. We know what our flow is for preparing a piece, right? When we're preparing a piece specifically, right? So now I give them parameters that have to do with numbers. I say, and this is just, I mean, it can change. This is variable. But something I like to say now is 60 days. I need you to spend 30 of those 60 days making your choreography, getting through your choreography, honing your choreography. And the other 30 days is practicing the choreography until there's no amount of spotlight, no amount of weird staging, no amount of costume faubles that can get in your way from knowing that dance in your heart and your soul. Now, I don't think that this is a parameter everyone needs to take on in their life. But what I'm saying here is when you first start someone on that path of preparation, it is helpful to give them numbers and solid figures upon which to work. Now, for me, and my students tell you the same, for me, my dances will take months to prepare, especially if, say, I'm doing something folkloric, where I really want to do the research and do it authentically as I can, as I know how, as I can research. I have months of research, and then the language, and then consulting with experts. I try to consult with experts in that certain tradition before I even go into making my own choreography. So to me, 60 days is light now, right? But it might seem overwhelming to a beginner, like 60 days. I don't need 60 days to do anything, but it's true.
Oh goodness, oh yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of work. And even one of the things you said that I thought was interesting, even something simple as like the music, you wanna, and this is just for choreography, because of course there's improv and that's a whole other thing, but even just like the music, you have to listen to it over and over and over. And even if you do get sick of it, you know, momentarily. Think of like a relationship. Sometimes you get sick of your partner. You're like, I need a moment, you know. You still love them. You still come back to it. And then you're like refreshed when you take a moment of a break, right? You come back
Mhm.
to that piece and you're like, oh no, I do love this piece. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's like part of the normal flow of the process.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would tell my competition coaching students, I would have them prepare 3 to 6 months
There you go.
before.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I
And they would do it right
absolutely
home.
think that would be totally, when we're talking about getting ready for a competition, absolutely.
Mhm.
And again, now we're getting into context. So you're going to have super ambitious students out there who maybe out of inexperience don't quite know what they're biting off, right? When
Yeah.
they sign up for something, or they're going to go out and do a live band show, or a show on a sort of stage that they're not used to, that sort of thing. And so I've tried to, as of late, more and more, as I have more students who are preparing things on their own, and I love having them out there and getting into the world, um, I try to encourage them to come ask, because sometimes I'm not aware of what they don't know. Like, I'll take things, in my experience, I will take things for granted. For example, one time my troop, and some of them are watching, yes, I know you're watching, um, my troop were questioning whether or not we need to paint our fingers and our toes. And of course, the answer is of course, but we're going in public, we're doing a performance as a group, absolutely. But that's something that I hadn't thought to tell them. You know what I mean? It's like it was such a standard in my mind that I hadn't thought.
I see.
Or they, one time they said, let's all do ponytails for this performance. I was like, no, no, your hair is down. If you have hair to be down, it's going to be down. And that is not a rule. They could have gone up there in ponytails, but it is not a standard practice, right? And what I want to do is set them up for success. Before they decide to be outliers and go do something original and unique, my job as a teacher is to set them on a path for success by knowing what is normal and giving them a base. It's the same thing with picking out a costume. I try to go back these days and remember what I didn't know. One example of this, and I don't think my first teacher is watching, but I know she might watch this later. I was in my first teacher's troupe a million years ago, and I had never worn a bra and a belt yet. And we had a performance, so I borrowed hers. And I went to the performance thinking I was all ready, and my bra was upside down.
Aw.
So there you go. That's part of the preparation in there, where I didn't know. It's something you just didn't know. I was such a newbie. I didn't realize how to put the bra on. Okay, so there are things that I have to go back and remind myself. There have been examples lately where I've had some students who maybe they didn't realize how to discard the veil without leaving the excitement, without, making sure the momentum in the dance is still going while we discard the veil, right? Things like that. And so now more than ever, because I'm so picky and my students know it, I do encourage them. I almost force them to let me see what they're working on, right?
Mm,
Because that's what I'm there for. That's
yeah.
what I'm there for as a coach, to give them the best tools to work with so they feel confident and inspired and not discouraged when they perform.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that's such an interesting thing though, because in the format that you have, your group has someone that they can come to and telling them, you should come to me. And so the idea goes inside of like, oh, I should show my piece, right? There's also quite a large segment of the population, the three class wonders, that then go off and are alone. And which is okay, but I don't think you realize this is such a communal type of like dance. So like when you go off alone, all these really creative modalities appear with not having a mentor or someone to be like, oh, wait, actually, it's, traditionally this way, or it usually looks this way, or usually you wear this thing. And so there's a lot of creativity that comes from that. I think is the sweetest thing to do. A lot of excitement,
Yeah.
and that will make it to stage without a buffer. There is no buffer. We see this a lot. I even see it in competitions a lot.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
There's no buffer and it's clear. And so I think when you have an instructor, for anyone listening that's a student, OMG, use that resource. Yes. And there's so many other instructors. Look to see what's around, like to see how other people, interpret other people, the culture, what they have to say. But if you don't have a buffer, maybe we have some people that don't have a mentor right now listening or will listen to later. You may need to consider that this is such a communal type of dance at its heart, it's based on traditions that get passed down,
Mm-hmm.
you really should consider to make sure you're dancing this dance in all its many forms
Yeah.
accurately to some extent, to call it and label it that and wear the costume. I think I saw Diasporic Showgirl just saying, hey, honey, professional dancers and other styles will buy a costume off of Amazon and book as a belly dancer. Yes.
Oh my gosh, the Amazon.com costumes. Again, this is diasporic showgirl. I 100%, I'm like those Amazon.coms. They rear their ugly heads. And I'm like, it has come to my attention recently that a colleague of mine around Chicago has the opinion, and I see now where she's getting this, but in her opinion, you shouldn't buy a professional costume until you're a professional performer. Because
Ooh.
if you're a student, you need to dress like a student. Or this is hearsay. This is what I've heard, right? However, for me, I hate looking at those Amazon.com costumes, right? I would rather make sure my student looks the part and looks like a practitioner of this art, and we'll work on the dance. But if you're going out there as a soloist, I know Amazon.com. I don't care. There's a way to make it, the money that you're spending on a costume from there with the elastic strap, looks like you rhinestoned it at home from Kohl's or whatever. Like the money that you're spending on Amazon.com for this costume, you could go on a used site from professional dancers and get something that fits you, that's made in Egypt, that looks the part.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes. And I always say, don't go out there looking like a garage sale. And what I mean by that is that you got the top from this outfit and the bottom from some other outfit, in the bronze belt you got on Amazon, but then you mix it in the skirt that you had in your closet. Like, okay, the financial investment required is definitely a thing on that. But I'm not saying there's always a way. There's a way to go about it and get yourself a nice costume without paying $600 a plus, right? You need to do that. But what I do need you to do is not look generic up there.
And that's also can bring us into even backgrounds and settings, but let's come back to this. Hold on. Having a costume that is not put together can sometimes take away from the overall performance. Thanks, Becca Rose Dancer. Yeah, it can be very distracting.
Yes, Becca. Becca knows. Becca
Sometimes it
knows
doesn't
for
match
sure.
the style or the dance that you're performing, because again, there's a lot of innocence. You're new, you're excited. There's a lot of these things going on. But beyond the costumes, kind of getting back to the root of it, I'd love for you to share some of your stories and experiences, like as you have been with. I think you're a teacher. Do you feel like at times like you're the gatekeeper in a way? Like has that
I have
happened?
been recently, almost like chastising myself, or like really reviewing, have I been gatekeeping my students? Should they be out there like more and faster and harder than they are right now? And I've thought about that. Like, have I, you know, should I have pushed them harder to do this and that, or should they be doing certain things that so far I have discouraged them from doing because I didn't think they're ready, or something like that? But with that in mind, I think about the different contexts in which we can be ready to do something. For example, there is your community hafla, where the other dancers there are also students. In Chicago, we have a wonderful woman named Donna, and she produces haflas that are specifically for students. She doesn't necessarily want pros in there at all, right? And then there's like showcases that are paid performances, and we're getting, and this is local community sort of things. Then we can go all the way to preparing for a competition, like you were saying earlier, like the big serious stuff. You know, I had a student about a year or two ago who wanted to get together a group of girls to go to Florida and do this big convention. But this student has only been studying with me like a year. I don't even think she owned a costume yet. And it was a festival in Florida that was super specific. And her plan was to have one private lesson with me, and then about the history and the subject matter for this super specific convention, and then go do it. And that was her plan. But that's, I mean, it's, to me, that sounds ridiculous. But to her, it didn't, because she doesn't know. Yeah, she doesn't know. And so in that case, I had, you know, the situation didn't necessarily work out, which is all for the better, because she was ready for something like that. But in that case, I tried to bring home, and people don't always believe you when you tell them these things, but like, this is a very specific topic. This is a very historical topic. This is a certain style of dancing that requires research. It doesn't require one private lesson. That is not going to get you ready for the show in Florida, out of town, you know, that sort of thing. So I also had one time during the pandemic, I and a colleague of mine from New York City, we decided to co-produce a show. It was online because that's what you did during the pandemic. And one of my students who had been in and out with me, and she was very enthusiastic. And she performed in some of my student shows in the group, like in the student group. She wanted to do a solo, but she didn't want to show me. And then I had her show me, and she was absolutely not prepared at all. And in that case, I had to take her to the side and say, I can't allow you to be in this online showcase. You have not researched your dance. You don't have anything prepared. Like, I see that nothing that you're doing is consistent or prepared. And it would be a detriment to her also, because she would go on, it wasn't something that she was ready for because she hadn't put the work in. That is why, you know what I mean? And when we're performing, now that was an online showcase, and it was students, and it would have been a very welcoming environment, but to me, she hadn't put in any work. So even when you go out and you represent, and this is my ego talking, when you go out and you represent my teaching, you're saying, I'm a student of Phaedra, and I've never seen your dance, and we haven't talked about your dance, and it is not, you do not have to be the best dancer. No. You do not have to be the best dancer, but you do have to prepare at the level you're at and be ready. And be ready. And so I had to actually have a conversation and say, you cannot do this. You don't need the work that you're ready even for the student hafla. Now let's go to the public eye. When we are doing something in the public eye, to me that is even, and I because I don't have my own studio, like I don't own my studio, I rent space. I don't have a regular theater anymore. I taught at a place for like 10, 12 years where we had a theater we rented every 8 weeks, and they performed in the theater, and they had video and on a real stage with a real, dressing room and all of that. But we don't do that anymore because now I'm on my own, right? So their performance opportunities are in Chicago. I put them at Navy Pier. I put them at the Art Institute. I put them in the Chicago Park District. We put, I get grants for them to dance around the city and other places, right? But when we're representing this to the public, what I do not want the public to think is, I want it to look relaxed and joyous as it should be. But what I don't want the public to think is, wow, like that takes nothing. Look at that. They can tell slop. People can tell slop. Sometimes people can't tell what's good. That is true. Sometimes you put somebody in an outfit and you send them off and nobody can tell the difference. But when someone is good, you always know it.
Yeah, you feel it.
When someone is good, you always know it. And so for when we're representing this dance in the public eye, I have to be very picky and make sure we have a timeline and a schedule and things are good. And I think that there's a mentality that you can set up with your students with, that they know, they feel it, and they know when they're ready. But it sort of is a timeline of coaching.
Tell me
That's what I would
about
say.
when the student gets offended if you tell them they're not ready. Has that happened for you?
Well, the person that I did kick out of the online Hafla, she's never come back to class again. So I guess that did happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's very natural to see that with some personalities, especially when they don't know, they might take it the wrong way. I think it's important to say what your truth is as an instructor, as a person, as a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it could certainly be interpreted from a really different standpoint, and the person could get mad. They can be like, oh my God, she was so mean to me, or he was so mean, or they were so mean to me, oh my God, or I'm never going to dance again, or I'm going to dance again and I'm just going to gig and I'm going to show them. And then they start working as like rebellion. There's like all these scenarios that can happen. And it's, I think when you have a relationship with a student, you can mold that a lot better, or with a different colleague who knows your work and they respect your work. And so when you have that, but sometimes you see a lot with like the 1, 2, 3 class wonders. You might get one class with them, and they'll be like, "Oh, I perform." I'm like, no, not yet. You don't know what the dance is yet. And then they'll get offended, and speak negatively. Like things like that happen all the time.
Well, in that case, I would hope that's the case if someone doesn't see the world around them and realize, like, this is a dance where you have to be curious, and we have tons of social media. We're social media is in our face. Belly dancing videos are in our face all the time. You know what good belly dancing looks like. We also know what bad belly dancing looks like, but we're inundated with. There's no reason that it is a mystery anymore, and so what I'm saying there is, if someone's powers of observation also don't tell them what's going on, there's a little bit of their human powers of observation for them to know that this is not really comparing what I see, or this is not really comparing to even the other dancers in the studio. Can show them if they look beyond themselves. They have to look beyond themselves and look at the other dancers around them and how they prepare and how they're growing, and use that as inspiration, not discouragement, but inspiration to know that maybe they're not there at that time. But as the teacher, you do sometimes have to be honest about that, right? And some people just don't ask you at all, and they're not going to ask you, and that the world of this dance will eventually tell them. That's maybe, but we've definitely had dancers in Chicago who go and gig, and they're definitely not,
not ready.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are students, and you'll see this all the time, who just want to be in that spotlight. And that was a case that I definitely ran into. And those students, I think, come to the spotlight very quickly. Where they don't almost care what they're doing as long as they're on stage.
Yeah, that's very much a trend for sure.
Yeah. And so, sometimes giving them environment like a student performance or a group to participate in is probably a better thing than withholding them from that, because they're going to go, if you don't help them in that way, go, like you said, like a 3-class wonder, and then go get that spotlight, get their Amazon.com costume and go get that spotlight somewhere. But I think that it's important to give the students opportunities to perform, because sometimes people don't care. They just want that spotlight. And I'm not saying that that's why students perform. No, we like work on something, we love it so much, and we want to share it. That's ideally why they want to do it.
The excitement. Yeah. There's a bunch of comments like, ha, it's going on fire. Yeah, it's such hard conversation to tell folks they aren't ready. It sure is. The
Mm-hmm.
fantasy of social media is making students wanting to skip student haflas. They just want to skip all the steps. So how do we adapt to that? Kind of like the other side of the social media. And I would have to say, yeah, like you have social media that inspires and compels people to train harder. And then you have the other side, or like another facet, let's say, of people that see the social media and they go, oh, I can do that tomorrow. Buy it. They don't want to do anything student. They're just like, oh, I can do this. Boom. Like skipping all the steps. Yeah, just then, yeah, for real. Not a lot, right?
Yes.
It happens. And how do we adapt to that? I think that is such a great question. Ooh.
Yeah. So I want to clarify something within that question. You said that there's so much social media out there and people want to skip half plus and go to what? To a pro setting? Is that what
Yeah, I'm
that?
gonna correct me if I'm wrong, but it just sounds like they want to skip the student haflas and just be like, no, I want to perform like in a professional show, in a professional setting,
Yes.
skipping the student hafla step, which is very necessary to getting your chops, and you need a lot of time, and that it can be, I call it like an incubation space. Like that's where you incubate things and you test,
Yes.
you learn things.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I think in that case, there's a little dichotomy there. Like there's a student who sees, the process and how we're going to get there. And then we have the student who might be lacking in their powers of observation, meaning I sometimes call it delusions of grandeur. Like they don't see necessarily a difference between this amazing dancer in Egypt and what they're doing. They don't see that there's a difference there.
Yeah.
Right? And so there will be, of course, students who don't ask. They don't ask you, and they don't come to you, and they just go do their thing, right? But sometimes I always encourage them to come and show me what they're doing, because sometimes there have been times when I see my students and they didn't show me what they're doing, and that's okay. I mean, eventually get to a point where you're making art on your own, and I totally am into that, but I see what they're doing, and they did not take the opportunity, and I see what we could have fixed in 5 minutes. And that's when it really I'm like, oh, please, why didn't they ask me? We could have, I could have fixed that for them in 5 minutes. But because you didn't have another set of eyes on this before you put it in the public, you didn't see it yourself, right? Like the dancer might not see it themselves. What might be that thing that I could have helped them with,
Yeah.
And diasporic showgirl, I see the comment, they want to go straight to working and big stages. Well, I have to say, aside of festivals, the working opportunities are fewer and fewer sometimes, with that we don't have Arabic clubs too much anymore. At least in Chicago, it's like private parties maybe, And, you know, in Chicago, we have really, really nice community parties in the Arab community that are happening by some young organizers, which I really, really love. And I love the spirit that's happening. But a lot of times the opportunities are half-less. And it's like you don't have much else. And I mean, it comes to depending where you live, right? I think, and the more and more I've taught around the country, the more I see the different environments in which this dance occurs. And there are lots of environments in which it occurs, including festivals that are, there is no Arab influence at all, right? So I could go and teach, let me just use an example somewhere I've never taught, so I can't be, you know, I can't be naming names, right? Say I go to Central Florida and teach. I don't even know what Central Florida looks like, but say it's a little bit far from Arabic influence, okay? And I see belly, and this happens though, that I go and I teach a festival and I see belly dancers who are pursuing this art with no influence at all from the culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they sort of have an idea, like they know what they think this art looks like, but it's almost unrecognizable at times because, and it's not necessary, it is their fault to a point, and it's not their fault to a point, because there's a beauty in that too, wherein we have the internet, so you don't kind of have an excuse anymore not to know what belly dance is supposed to look like. On the other hand, I see belly dance going on in this completely devoid of any sort of Arab culture environment, and it also breaks my heart in a good way because I see these dancers performing and loving this music and loving this dance so much, even though maybe they don't have the best education at their fingertips, but they love it. There's something about this art that is so amazing to them, and it moves them so much with complete void of Arab culture in their life. They still come to it and love it and pursue it to the best of their ability. And it breaks my heart in a good way, too.
Oh, there's so much to say. Where do I even take? How about what are some mistakes maybe you've made along the way? We'll come back to, there's just so many places I'm like, oh my God.
Yes, there's so many things, you know, there's always, and thank you everyone, by the way, for the comments. Thank you for tuning in, because I love to see what your thoughts are. Like Shining is up in here.
We'll make sure to answer the questions at the end. Don't worry, guys.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thank you, thank you. All right. So mistakes I've made along the way, absolutely.
Yeah, we're all human.
Oh, absolutely. In my own preparation or my preparation of other people?
Let's start with maybe your preparation.
Okay. There's been a ton of mistakes along the way. That is so sure. Like,
who hasn't, girl?
I remember when I started, okay, and this is, again, it's inexperience and not delusions of grandeur necessarily, but I was like, when I started, I had like two thoughts, and I'll never forget them because now, to me, they're so ridiculous. One thought, I was like, I'm gonna revolutionize this dance. In what way? God knows, right? Like, I'm gonna do something special and different. Well, here's the thing. There is room in this art as we go on to express, and this art, any art, is going to develop and be expressed in different ways. We're not, you know, this dance is from a culture, but the culture is not a monolith. You know, it is, as my Arabic music teacher, Ronnie, I think he always says, no culture is a monolith, something like that, meaning like no culture is without other influences. Like, what is the original this or the authentic this that doesn't have influence? So art will change and art will be expressed in different ways, right? But what I realized the older I get is that This dance doesn't need necessarily revolutionizing. It is enough. This dance is enough. It is beautiful. It is complex. It has so much history and layers and culture to it and context to understand that in 20 more years, I will still be finding things as I do every single time I tune into a lecture, I tune into a class, I go to a class. I'll still be finding complexities and beautiful new things that already exist in this dance. So that was me being not overconfident. There's probably a better word for this, but being like this bullheaded young person thinking that this dance needed turning over, and it doesn't. It's beautiful. And there is, of course, there's development and ways to express things. We see beautiful work all the time that is based in belly dancing, rat sharki, that takes on a modern turn of some kind. Right? Another thing that I would think that I thought when I was younger was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna be really good at veil. Veil is gonna be my thing. Girl, I'm like, okay, like what? I don't know why of all things I would think that I think veil is interesting and lovely and beautiful, but I don't know what I was thinking, you know? There's, again, as I developed within this dance, like my knowledge of this dance developed as I saw so many other aspects. The veil is beautiful and it is an art, and there are people who just take it and excel with it as an instrument on its own. But to me, you know, the more I developed in this dance, the more I saw other avenues of things that interested me. You know, it was, okay, we can take that example as an example of such a narrow focus that we might have when I was young, right? Because what did I see? I saw a cane, I see the veil, and I see the belly dancing. Like, these like three basic see as a beginner, right? Yeah. And there's so much more to it. So that's a mistake of ignorance, you know?
Yeah, and it's something how we're all, most of us, I would say like majority, I can only speak to mostly Florida here where I've been, but we're all very ignorant when we come in, especially, we're not even of the culture, many of us. I'm in Florida, it's heavily Latin, right? And just other different cultures, the melting pot. And you come and you're super ignorant, but you're entranced by the music. You fall in love maybe with the people where you saw it being performed. Or maybe you fell in love with it from a movie or an artist, a popular singer that delved into another market. It's totally normal for anyone listening to be like, I don't know these things. I have been in this almost 20 years and I'm constantly like, oh my God, there's another region with another dance with another regional style. My gosh, it's almost like there's so much, it's almost overwhelming. Like it'll take 2 lifetimes to learn almost most things.
Yeah. And to represent these things well takes time. Again, with the representing well, and I mean, I am a person that I don't even know if I'm the right person to talk on this topic because I'm not black and white with almost everything. I see a million different ways all the time. My whole life is like a gray area because I'm like, oh, but what about this? But what about this? You know? But representing this dance well to the best of our ability takes time and it takes research. And again, getting back to the preparation, I want to set up the students for success. I want my own pieces when I'm working on something I would call like a piece, right? I'm not like improvising to shake shack choke at a party, whatever, you know, like when I'm doing something that I consider a piece, where I'm studying the rhythm and the composition of it and making my body the instrument of the music or whatever your philosophy is behind that. Like, I want to do this to the best of my ability because I want people to look at belly dance, rat sharki, and see that it is an Arab dance. Well, the way I do it, okay? There's a lot of rat sharki. Okay, I get it. Okay, let's not go there yet. But what I'm saying is like that this dance that I'm doing in the Arab way that I know how, I'm doing it to the best of my ability and I want it to be impressive. I don't want everyone to think that, oh, I can do that. I want them to think that it is beautiful and it is complex and it takes talent. And I want that to inspire people. I don't want necessarily people to be like, oh, I can do that. That looks like something anyone can do. I want them to see it and be like, I want to do that because
Yeah.
it is beautiful. And it does look like you need talent to do it, or it does look like you need skill to do it. I want people to look at my students and think that for them, that wow, are they skilled? Wow, they really know their stuff. And that's not anything that you're going to accomplish in a very short time.
Mm-hmm. Takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you brought up something in me where I think of, I recently wrote or revised a blog, and I'm not sure if you've ever felt this way, but for those that may be listening to us, and we've all been there, like I was one of those people, you're listening to a conversation like this, and you're like, you might be a student, or you might be a young professional, we'll call them, and you're going, wait, but I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm just having fun, right? I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
When I was writing this piece the other day, I started thinking about, me and my family, and when we dance salsa, merengue, bachata, cumbia, which are very typical dances that we do at any social party, always. The way we dance it is like melody. It is home learned. Grandma taught my mom taught me, like, da, 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 on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
When we go see something like Dancing with the Stars or a world salsa competition, Colombians are very famous for salsa and all this stuff, we go, wow, that's amazing. But we go, that looks nothing like what we do. Not even close.
Uh-huh.
And so sometimes, to kind of now bridge this back to this conversation, when you're a student or a really, really excited professional and you're going and you're performing with an audience, they could be MENA or not or mixed, okay? And you're not ready. I'm not a MENA descent, but I sometimes get offended with what I see. And I know they mean the best in their heart, they just don't know better. But I'm like, what is this? This does not resemble at all what I thought the show was going to be or the dance would be that I was coming to support, So this might sound like really strong for some people that might be on the other side of this conversation, but this is literally what I, as a non-MENOT, just really experienced, and having to be in a lot of MENOT circles and performances in my life. That's how I feel when I see something not prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Do you experience anything like this similarly?
Yes, in that sometimes I will see groups and what they're doing is not recognizable as ballady dance. And what I mean when I say ballady dance is what you were describing, what you do in your living room, what you do as a non-professional with your aunties and your mom, and not something they've prepared for the stage. And then we have the rat sharki, and I do make those distinctions, and that's not a rule. People call rat sharki, people call rat ballady, either one. But this is how I sort of distinguish in my brain. But yes, the one that's meant for the stage and the one that's not meant for the stage. And Debka is the same way. I was just talking to a Palestinian Debka artist I hosted at my studio last night, and we were talking about the Debka we do at weddings and the Debka you do on stage as a troupe look nothing like what's going on, right? It's totally, a Debka troupe is completely a whole different thing, just like belly dance, right? So that's to be expected. But when we go and look on a stage, what we expect to see as a rat sharki performance for the eyes of the public on a stage, which is different. We've already described that, right? And then you see, oh my gosh, this is almost unrecognizable. Where are they coming up with this? And I think to myself, I try to put myself in their shoes a little bit. Again, we've already analyzed that you have the internet, so there's almost no excuse, but in-person teaching, there's no substitute for in-person teaching. So it could be that whoever's their lineage of teaching, This is what they think of belly dance for the stage, or Ratsharki, as what I'm putting, this phrase I'm putting within the interview, the definition I'm using. So we have to look at their lineage, right? And it is shocking. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it can be appalling, right? Like, oh, wow, that is interesting.
Yeah,
That's
very
very
creative.
interesting. Yes, and I have to look at where are these dancers coming from? What is their lineage, right? And so they certainly think that this is the correct thing that they're doing. And again, this art is very subjective, and it takes many forms. But when you know that they're going for something, when you know they're going for Egyptian, and you know what Egyptian looks like, and you look on the stage, and that is not what you think you would look at as an Egyptian piece, and your jaw drops a little. And then I try to think, okay, where are they coming from?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, if I were to take up belly dancing in my hometown of 6,000 people, and the only Arabs are, I'm related to them in my hometown, right? There are no Arabs except the ones I'm related to in my hometown, right? Like, what would that look like? If I took up belly dancing, looked at the internet or a DVD of Rachel Bryce from the 90s or whatever, and I made up belly, like tried to do my best, what would that look like? So we do have to look at the context and hope that their curiosity about this art will lead them other places. Not just, that's not the end of the story. When I look at them and my heart sinks a little bit and I'm just, oh, look at that, that's interesting, right? But that's not the end of the story, right? It's not the end of their story, hopefully. And you just like hope, like, okay, we all grow. We all grow within this dance. If you looked at a video from me from 2008, it's laughable.
Dang.
Laughable. Yeah, it's laughable. So I can't be this like super like, how dare you? Because I was that person that I wouldn't want to watch. For sure. I don't even know if people want to watch me today, right? My dance has definitely changed. Let's just put it that way. But I've definitely been that person.
Yeah,
so I
we're
can't,
all growing.
well,
Always.
yes.
Always. Solutions. Spitfire. What are the solutions to help our community, our students, our colleagues, our professional next generation?
Yes.
To portray
Okay.
something that was respectful and amazing for our audiences to see.
Okay. A solution that is respectful and amazing. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, you know, a friend of mine, Mazen, he is a professor of Arab American Studies, and he's like, maybe you can say this is a recommendation, not an obligation when you make your suggestions to your student. But the more and more I definitely want a certain product from them, I make things an obligation. I give them parameters. Like we talked about the 60 days.
Yeah.
You're like, I need 3 to 6 months. It depends on the context, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, you show your students things, opportunities that you think will fit them. If they find things on their own, hopefully they will consult with you. Not so you can gatekeep them, but so you can set them up for success.
Love it.
Right? So I would say fostering an environment where there's open communication between your students, like they don't have to sneak around and do stuff because they know you're going to say no. Right? Like, I don't want to be that person either, even though I know I'm tough. And I know I am tough because I grew up in a music environment. And my saxophone teacher in college had no problem saying, this isn't ready, you're not doing this. In fact, my first recital in college, which I had the guts to do, which wasn't necessary, but I did it anyway, on stage that day after my performance, he said, well, next time, he said, this was a good first recital. Next time, you're going to make it a good recital.
Cute. Yeah, I think that.
Oh, no, I mean, he was telling me on that date, like, you did good for a beginning workout, but like this isn't a good recital.
Yeah,
You did good for a first time. This isn't the real deal. So I come from a much tougher environment, and it's like keeping it loving and keeping that door open. Okay, the other solution is that, as we said before, the numeric parameters. When you know you have a student who doesn't know how to practice, because again, how to practice is not something we teach in belly dance that I have seen. Nobody says you need to do 15 minutes. Well, not nobody. Maybe I'm just not in their class yet, okay? But nobody says you need 15 minutes of drills, 20 minutes of improvisation, and then 45 minutes on your repertoire when you're doing your piece. Nobody really, they're just like, okay, I'll see you in class next week or whatever, right? So what I would say is make up a parameter that has numbers and a timeline. So they have something, yes, quantify. Thank you for that word, quantify.
I think with our musical backgrounds, that's like duh, but it would really benefit. I think this genre, it would definitely help. Yeah, giving it some sort of system of like, this is great, this is not so great, this is on the right track, this is a 5 out of 10 or 8
and the third thing we talked about it is rolling back and really trying to understand or get a good perspective on what these people might not know. Like I recently taught somewhere in the Midwest, not Chicago, and I know in that festival, there have been people who attend that think Pakistan is the Middle East. So I knew coming in with my very specific subjects for the day that I was teaching that there may be people in that room who don't know what Debka is or have never heard of Debka or had never understood what ballady means and the ballady style of ballady taqsim progression, how we dance that. So there's, you know, I really try to rewind, or things when my students didn't know to paint their toenails. And like, that's my fault because I didn't remember what I didn't know. You know, that's my fault for not telling them. Or my student left the hafla the other day without making a good excuse to the producer. She just left after she performed. And like, I was like, that's my fault. Because that, like a standard etiquette. And watch all the other performers because they watched you. This is standard etiquette. But I took it for granted. And I forgot what people might not know.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I can add one thing, it's just to reach out. If there's even professionals in the Zambian dancing profession for years, and still something as simple as not knowing what costume or what style they're dancing to, or like simple things sometimes. Reach out. You have people, they might be like, I don't know, or I know, or oh my God, this person knows, and they told me, or I have no idea, let's find out together. You'd be surprised just by like DMing, reaching out, calling someone, talking to them. Well, you could find out every day. It's amazing. Free resources in your community.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've had so many beautiful, wonderful teachers myself, and so many dancers who have provided opportunities for me as well, that they have been like a sounding board where I knew I could ask them any question and they would answer to the best of their ability, for sure. We're not in a void. You're absolutely right. We're not in a void. And with the social media, like I reach out to Khadija on the regular just to like check in. I reach out to Samantha Kareem. Like Roxanne Shalabi, who thanks Roxanne for suggesting me to do this interview. But Roxanne, like we can reach out and touch someone so easy now, right? I talk to, you know, I check in with Amani of Lebanon once in a while. You know, this sort of thing where we're never in a void. We're never really alone.
I'm going to go ahead and read to you some of the questions. So we make sure that everyone has this going. Here we go. From Shining Peacekeeper. What about students who do the work, but come presentation time, the final result is just not there, and they don't ask directly for feedback? Do we tell them it's not doing what it's supposed to? That is her question.
Well, okay. Did she definitely put in the thing about not asking for feedback?
Yeah, so the student does the work, it's not hitting,
Hmm.
and they don't
Hmm.
ask directly for the feedback. Should you as the teacher say something?
Well, I think that now, like recently, because I had a lot of students who didn't want to show me their work, I now have a policy in place that if you're representing our studio, I have to see it first. If you go do some on your own, that is the world. Good luck. And I am here. I'm good. I'm here for you if you want. I'm not here for you if you don't want. But I kind of make them. And when they do a piece, and they've been practicing it with, and I've seen it already, and it just doesn't hit on stage. It's part of their life lesson. I find that they know it. They know it because I always check in with them. If they have a performance and I cannot be there, I check in with them and say, how did it go? How did you feel? Send me your video, whatever it is. And they know it. They're adults. They're adults. And they'll know if they were killing it in rehearsal and then they didn't quite kill it on stage, or they weren't ready for the floor, or they didn't know where to discard their veil, or like these little things come up. And I think it's part of the learning process. But if they're doing the work, I always find a positive thing to say before we get into the what you could do better next time. Always. Because I want them to know that work is not in vain. The inspiration to keep moving forward is something I've had to teach. And actually, Casey Chai is super good about framing things in a verbally positive way instead of coming out and saying, you can't do this or you shouldn't do that or blah, blah, blah. Casey has taught me a huge lesson about framing things in a positive light so it is constructive and not negative. It's inspiring and it is not discouraging.
Blue Collar Rockstar, he's commenting on this. So great to learn more about your teaching philosophy and how you mentor your students. Let's see
Good.
here.
Thank
Instead
you.
of quantifying for neurospicy folks, okay, tying practice to other routine activities can help a lot. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, wait. Tying practice to other routine activities.
Yeah, as a way to kind of make that practice, like be able to track progress or make, whatever it might be, like you can quantify maybe by this activity or this routine thing. If I do this routine and I accomplish it so many times a week, okay, then I'm probably getting better type of thing.
Oh,
That's how I'm
okay. So
interpreting it.
it's kind of giving them like a regular schedule of practice. Is that what we're getting at here?
That's
Or
how I'm
like,
interpreting it. If it's wrong, please chime in. Like, like what? Actor?
oh, after brushing your teeth, Shining says, after brushing your teeth, 5 minutes of practice of shimmies or XYZ. Okay, okay.
Oh, okay.
Totally. Making it part of your everyday routine. And that is so true. Like, again, in saxophone world, I gotta say, growing up when I was 8 years old and until college, it was 1 hour a day. It did rain or shine,
Every
right?
day.
In college, it was more like 2 hours a day plus private lessons plus ensembles. So things got more intense. But there is a beautiful, wonderful clarinet player. You probably know of him from New York City, Soren Baronian. Soren Baronian, probably a lot of you know him. His thing is, I keep my instrument out. Because if he puts his instrument away, then like getting it out of the case and all of that, it's like a barrier. It becomes so easy to ignore. So as belly dancers, let's think about how we can keep our instrument out so you feel it's accessible at any moment and you don't feel like the urge to postpone it because if I practice and I have to get into my unitard because I wear unitards, get into my unitard and get the mirrors ready to go and all of this. Like, how can we make it increase the facility, like the environment of practicing, so it's just something like Shining said, okay, I brushed my teeth, I'm shimmying in the bathroom, this is where I'm going to do it, like think about that as dancers. Where can you make it so you don't have to make a big postponement necessarily? Sometimes it's people's happy place. Like the process of getting into the unitard and the process of rolling the mirrors behind my radiator and all of that is part of the ritual. So I understand that. Oh, Shining says, you just made me wonder about the change is practicing movement from student to pro.
Change in practice.
Oh, the change in practice. Yeah, I think that, here's what I would say with that. Like my longest students now and my most developed students, they know what they need to complete a dance. And I don't even have to tell them that we're going to schedule 1 or 2 private lessons. And they are the best ones of my students. Like they're so developed, but they still know their process and their ritual now. So in the beginning is when we need to like quantify, and people will get their flow and know what works best for them in the end. And interestingly, even though some of my beginners are like, oh, 60 days, that's so long. Like as Jennifer and I was saying, like there are times, like for me, it takes half a year to really make a piece of what I feel proud of. It could take half a year, but the research and the researching the rhythms and asking my drummer friends and all of this stuff that goes into making something you can be proud of. Yeah.
She has a new comment like, do you think choosing professional work, the practice needs to change or increase? Oh, like if you're trying to be professional, if the practice needs to change or increase?
Oh, well, here's the thing. There's a dichotomy here. And I had thought about this for this particular talk. I do ask my students in the beginning of every 8-week session, why are you here? Do you want time for yourself away from your children? Do you want to be a professional? Do you want to celebrate your culture? Because I do have a lot of Arab Americans. Or like, why are you here? And so I always keep that in the back of my mind. But at the same time, I remember I took an Arabic vocal lesson with a very famous dude, not my regular teacher, which he is awesome too, but I took a one-off lesson with a very famous dude, and he was like, why are you even doing this? Nobody's going to want you. Like he was kind of like, why are you here? Like, why would you want to be an Arabic vocalist? Like, you're not an Arab. You're from America. This isn't your language, you know. And so he's asking me, why am I here in the first place? And I could tell that my reason for that would alter his teaching of me, you know? Whereas my Arabic vocal teacher now, my regular Arabic music teacher, Ronnie, he would never ask me, why are you here? We just get to business. And so what I'm saying is that between being a professional and a student, yes, it matters about your goal. Like sometimes I don't pressure the students I know that are just there to relax. But when they tell me they want to do a solo in the public eye as a performance piece, they get the same treatment and we do the same preparation. So to answer Shining's question in a better way, if you want to be a pro, then you always have to practice just that much. There's no slacking. Like, if you decided you want to be a pro tomorrow, do you have to practice more? I would say it's going to come with the territory because you're heading into much more complex waters. Being a pro, you're going to be so much more responsible to know many, many different styles and props and this and that. You're going to have to up your game. But if you are a diligent student the whole time, the going pro is not something you're going to recognize overnight. It's going to happen because you've been on an incline, you know, and it will be your time. You know, things sometimes just happens and it's at your time. But if that's your goal, I think you got to start practicing like a maniac to begin with.
Jasenia says, in my opinion, I think it does change, especially in the setting, because there's a difference in dancing for other dancers and also knowing how to dance for different types of settings. Dancing for dancing doesn't always translate outside of that setting. So the type of practice is different. And I have to agree with you guys as well. It's just a different beast to
It
dance
is.
studio or in a hafla than to dance for paying clientele. Big time. Big
Yeah,
time.
I mean, okay. I see what you're saying, but I think that when you decide to be a pro of anything, that's a pretty heady word to be a professional, right? That puts you responsible for a lot more things. So if you're going to call yourself that, you have to have the chops to back it up, or else the pro thing isn't going to last very long. Well, maybe. We've all seen dancers who they keep working for money and they, don't actually work at being better. So
Yeah, that's true. Usually
it
it's
also it has to do with your personal ethics too, because I've seen more than one dancer who gets money to do this all the time, and they don't invest in their education and they don't develop. So
there's everything.
yeah,
I see a lot of like just beautiful, like physically dancers that are like millions of followers, but they don't really know how to dance very well. You see everything nowadays.
yeah,
It's just
it's
what
a
dancer
very
do you want to
subjective
be?
art. It's a very subjective art too,
Hmm.
and we don't. There's like a sensuality, sexuality element that the public expects there that we don't teach in class. So like there's the look and everything that's a stereotype there that the public expects that they don't expect at a student hafla for sure, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I think it's super great to have all these comments and perspectives. So please keep them coming. And like we don't necessarily, sometimes I think off the cuff and then I think better of it later. So who knows what I'll think tomorrow if you ask me the same question.
Yeah.
But
And we could always keep the conversation rolling. I will always post the video. So if anyone's like, oh my gosh, I got this question, I didn't ask it during the interview, you can still ask it. You
yeah.
put it in the comments. I'll be posting and publishing this everywhere. Don't be shy. I'll make sure Phaedra sees it if she's not already tagged by you already. So
Yeah, I love all these comments and opinions coming in because we have a lot of people on here who have an amazing amount of experience and a lot of contributions to share from their professional lives as well.
yeah, thanks guys. Closing remark. If you had to sum this all up in a couple sentences, what do you want people to leave here thinking, feeling, knowing on this topic now that we've discussed it a little bit? Your wish for anyone that listens to this in the future.
This is something I will always tell my students, and it's not brilliant, but it makes sense. Practice and preparation is the only defense that we have against nerves on stage. You could do 10 jumping jacks, you could go to your therapist, you can do all these things, but if your product isn't ready, that is why you get nervous. So preparation and practice is always the best defense. It's the best defense for making this dance something that should be watchable, for making the culture from which it comes proud, especially if you are a foreigner doing this dance. Practice, preparation, and that includes research, right? And when it comes to just plain old being on stage, that is almost the only real defense we have against nerves, synthetic drugs aside. Okay. Yeah. So
Awesome.
practice and preparation it's the key to so much.
Thank you so much for taking this time to talk and share it with us. I really, really enjoyed hearing your perspective, and everyone I think enjoyed it too, that's on here tonight. To kind of wrap it up, just want to remind everyone, Let's Talk Belly Dance is about talking about these things, the hard to talk about things, the things behind the curtain that you usually don't say out loud or put it online. But this is all things that are very normal. And we hope that with hearing different perspectives and this conversation can continue on and on and on in your neck of the woods. So thank you for everyone for joining. If you have any questions after the fact, by all means, please continue it. we will be happy to answer. I'll be happy to send it over. If you want to follow Phaedra, please, on Instagram, it's Chicago Rocks. On Facebook, you could find her under her real name. And I always say this like Latin, so Phaedra Darwish will be, I
That
think.
works. That's great.
Okay,
And thank
I'll
you,
save that one.
Jennifer, for having me so much.
My
Thank you for
pleasure.
having me. And thanks to Roxanne Shalaby for connecting us in the first place and suggesting me. And I
Thanks,
really hope
Roxanne.
that the dancers who watch this and want to talk about it more, or especially if you have different opinions that you would love to share, I would love to hear them, because I'm
Yeah,
totally, it's not my way or the highway. We're always developing.
I love it. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful night. Bye.